It's a Tuesday morning in a California DMV processing center. A high-speed printer is churning out thousands of pieces of specialized plastic. Each card features a small, laser-etched gold star in the top right corner. This is the Real ID. It's the result of a multi-billion-dollar federal mandate designed to make state identification unforgeable. To get one, residents have to provide a mountain of proof: birth certificates, social security cards, and residency documents. It is the most rigorous and expensive security overhaul in the history of American travel. But for 325,000 Californians, that security has just vanished into thin air. They aren't being targeted by sophisticated counterfeiters or international cyber syndicates. Instead, they are opening their mail to find a letter containing a very dry, four-word explanation: a significant system error. Somewhere inside the state's digital operations, a silent glitch has invalidated the federal compliance of their brand new documents. In an instant, these highly vetted IDs have been downgraded to useless scrap plastic. Take a look at what happened. The state now has to scramble to reissue 325,000 real IDs. It is a physical logistics nightmare triggered by a few lines of bad code. This isn't an isolated incident. Across the country, the high-tech systems we rely on for water, power, and identity are failing in the most mundane ways possible. From a 2-day IT blackout caused by mislabeled wires to a 6-day outage of a city's water system, our most advanced infrastructure is being paralyzed by the smallest human oversights. Here is how it unfolded. To understand how 325,000 IDs became scrap plastic, you have to look at the mandate behind them. The Real ID Act was designed to be the final word in federal compliance. It is a massive effort to standardize how every American proves their identity at an airport or a federal building. For the California DMV, this meant a total transition of their digital operations. Millions were spent on high-tech processing centers and encrypted database architectures. This is part of a larger trend: the Great Modernization. State governments across the country are moving away from local, offline storage and into the cloud. They are increasingly dependent on providers like Amazon Web Services, or AWS. AWS now acts as the digital backbone for everything from New York's resident services to municipal water system controls. The promise was simple: by centralizing the data, you make it more efficient and harder to hack. But this high-tech shell hides an aging, manual reality. In South Dakota, the state's entire IT infrastructure, serving every agency and citizen, runs through a single, massive server room. These systems are marketed as the pinnacle of modern technical infrastructure. They are sold as seamless, automated, and hyper-secure. But every sophisticated line of code eventually meets a physical wire in a rack. And every physical wire requires a human hand to identify. In October 2025, South Dakota, every state-run website, email server, and public database suddenly vanishes from the internet. For 48 hours, the state's digital operations are a complete vacuum. No one can access benefits, file documents, or communicate across agencies. In the Emergency Operations Center, the assumption is immediate: a sophisticated, coordinated cyber attack. IT officials begin scouring millions of lines of code for a breach, a backdoor, or a foreign signature. But the digital forensics turn up nothing. The failure isn't in the cloud, and it isn't in the software. It's in the basement. Investigators eventually walk into the state's central server facility, moving past the biometric locks and the climate-controlled racks. A technician pulls a panel and shines a flashlight into a dense nest of network cables. There, stuck to a critical fiber optic line, is a piece of masking tape. On it, a maintenance worker has scribbled a label with a Sharpie, but the label is wrong. Officials are later forced to admit the humiliating reality of the 2-day IT outage. The collapse of the entire state digital network was caused simply by mislabeled wires. A physical maintenance error had manually disconnected the digital brain of the state. The multi-million-dollar, secure infrastructure was defeated by a handwriting mistake. It wasn't a hacker from across the globe. It was a piece of tape and a basic human. The administrative failure at the California DMV is now a massive physical logistics operation. To correct a significant system error, the state must reissue 325,000 real IDs. It is a multi-million-dollar correction for a digital operation that was supposed to be seamless. But the DMV isn't the only institution managing a breakdown. In San Francisco, the Board of Supervisors begins a public offensive. They blast PG&E for the December power outages that left thousands in the dark. The supervisors call for a formal inquiry into the stability of the public utility system. While San Francisco fights over the grid, Waterbury, Connecticut is facing a 6-day outage. The city enters nearly a week without running water, forcing officials to announce emergency repairs. The failure of municipal water pipes highlights the fragility of basic sanitation systems. Even the cloud-based safety nets are showing cracks. An Amazon Web Services outage creates a direct impact on New York State residents. Residents find themselves unable to access the very digital services designed to modernize their lives. The Great Modernization is proving to be a sequence of manual apologies and physical redos. State governments are caught between high-tech federal compliance and aging physical maintenance. The stakes are no longer just digital. They are about air travel, public safety, and basic trust. For 325,000 Californians, the immediate future depends on the arrival of a new envelope. A piece of plastic to replace the one that was invalidated by a silent. Back in the California Processing Center, the high-speed printers are running 24 hours a day. They are churning out a second wave of unforgeable documents to replace the first. 325,000 new pieces of specialized plastic, each carrying that tiny gold star. It is a massive physical logistics operation triggered by a silent database flicker. In South Dakota, the masking tape has been peeled off and replaced with professional tags. The state's digital brain is back online, but the administrative failure remains on the public record. In Waterbury, the emergency repairs are finished, though the physical infrastructure is still catching up to the technology. San Francisco supervisors are moving forward with their inquiry into the December power outages. We continue to migrate our lives into the cloud, even as the basements remain full of mislabeled wires. For now, a mountain of newly printed real IDs sits in a warehouse in Sacramento, a massive vibrating stack of plastic waiting for the mail trucks to fix a few lines of bad code.